Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, wherever you may be. I'm going to give you a quick rundown on what's on tonight's snowfall, the heavy snowfall edition of the Klown Hour. We're going to get into some NFL action, recapping the conference championship games, selling the debate. It's Tom Brady to go once and for all, as well as we're going to say the preview for the Super Bowl for next week. It's 2 weeks now. But we're really going to touch on the lack of minority head coaching hires in the NFL. I mean, so much for all the talking during the offseason about, doing better and in the wake of George Floyd's murder. But anyway, we're going to get right to it. Hope you all enjoy. And also, please, pretty please subscribe and get the merch. All right, holla at y'all in a minute. What's up, guys? Welcome to this edition of the Klown Hour. I'm your boy, Scott Burks. This is my co-host. Below me, or it may come up beside me when I upload to YouTube, who knows? But anyway, he's at Dwayne Nash. You can check him on the Yards of HBCU Sports and reps about all things HBCU Sports, as well as Sleazy Radio on every Tuesday night on Facebook Live. Check him out with him and his crew. Also, check out his good work on herosports.com and reps about all things FCS Sports as it pertains to HBCUs. And we got a couple of guests in the house. We're talking in this very important conversation on lack of minority hire in the NFL. We're all pissed off, so I brought the crew to get pissed off with us. So right now we we have our fellow Aggie in the house, Previn Taylor, and as well as my man from Kaplan University's finest, another HBCU that maybe some people may not know about, but it's a great school, great institution. My man Rashad Myers is back in the house. Gentlemen, what's going on? How y'all feel?
Man, I'm doing good. You were talking about the snow earlier. Yeah. That snow's heading my way. So I'm looking forward to it with air quotes to hit me sometime this weekend. So yeah, I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to feel about that in a couple of days.
Yeah, I don't think Rashad and maybe Previn, because Previn's you in Virginia, so I mean you probably.
Well, I'm in the corner of Virginia that really wants to return to being a Jurassic swamp that it was several million years ago. So what we're used to over here is that pretty much from Williamsburg north and west, they get snow and it stops pretty much down the street from where I live. Okay. So we are supposed to get a light dusting tonight.
Oh, light dusting even. Okay, got you. But but it's not
I'm looking. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead. No.
Well, I mean, if nothing else, we got the start of the Winter X Games tomorrow night, so I get to chuck my my black card for a couple of days and enjoy that on the television. We don't get real snow here. I at least get to see it on TV.
What you mean, Sal Mazzucchelli is the host? I'm just saying. Well, used to be the host.
I'm saying. I'll host. Shoot, they can hire me. I'll do it.
Yeah, Rashad, you in South Carolina. You guys had snow earlier this year, right? Or last year?
Yeah, we did certain parts. But I still say it's like a box of chocolates, man. You never know what you're going to It was 74 yesterday and 53 today. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Hey, that South Carolina winter life ain't no joke.
No joke, man. It's just like that. I promise.
It is.
Yeah. Oh, man.
It's that pneumonia weather without the COVID.
There you go.
Yes, it is.
The welcome pneumonia weather.
Yeah.
The welcome pneumonia weather. Let's get to it, fellas. I know we got a big topic tonight, that being the lack of minority hire in the NFL as far as head coaches go. And we'll get into the nuance of that as it pertains to general managers and some new assistant coaches hiring in terms of coordinators. So we'll get to that as well. But I want to touch upon, since it was the conference championship games just happened, right? So I want to get y'all a quick 2 cents on what's going on here. So how about that Tom Brady? Look, I'm not a fan of Tom Brady. I'm a Steelers fan, so I hate New England. I hate all things New England. And Boston sports in general because I'm originally a Brooklyner. So, but I gotta give props for props is due, brothers. The man, first he went to Washington, where a lot of people thought that he could get some trouble, including Prince's company here. And he did his thing. It was tough, but he did his thing. Then he went to New Orleans, his house of horrors, slayed a dragon that was Drew Brees and the Saints that owned him this past regular season. And then he went up to the frozen tundra Lambeau Field, outdueled, even though he made some mistakes in the third and especially the fourth quarter with those interceptions, but he went up there, took down Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers, for those of you who are familiar with Key and Peele. So what can I say? He took a team that was 7-9 last year, same squad for the most part, now a Super Bowl team. So I started off with Previn and go around from Previn to Rashad to my man D Nash to get your thoughts. Can we settle? Does he have to? He doesn't have. I mean, he doesn't have to win the Super Bowl to be the GOAT. He is the GOAT. So should this cement this ship once and for all that Tom Brady, 2 Super Bowl losses and all, is the GOAT? Period. End of freaking discussion.
End of freaking discussion, because we're talking about Super Bowl number 10.
Yes.
Look, as far as I'm concerned, there's nothing to discuss. You know, I'm not really into that barbershop GOAT stuff, but if I got my list, yes, GOAT. My number 2 would probably surprise every last one of you, but I'm not even going to get into that right now. I
want to hear this.
Yeah, we got to hear you tease it. It's too late, man. You got to tease it.
Or you want to hear number 2?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
You want to hear number 2? Number 2 is the X-Man, number 7, John Elway.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
No, that's not far-fetched.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's my number 2.
Wow.
That's my number 2. Right. So going on, as
Man,
far
if
as
you
I'm
said
concerned
like
with Tom Brady,
Chris Chandler, I would have been the word.
Boy, you dig deep in that one, didn't you, bro?
Hey.
Chris Chandler.
Oh, man.
So, yeah, it's all gravy for Tom Brady at this point. He didn't have a single thing, as far as I'm concerned. 10 Super Bowls, man. Oh, he lost 3. Maybe if he loses 3,
yeah.
Who's going to say anything about that? Look, I'm not saying I'm not impressed that he got to this point with the Buccaneers. It never seemed like a ridiculous proposition to me. Right. People tend to forget that Joe Montana made it to an AFC Championship with the Chiefs.
That's correct.
You know, he was pretty close to getting to a Super Bowl outside of a 49ers uniform.
Right.
So that being said, yes, we know it can happen. Why wouldn't it happen with Tom Brady? That's a pretty good team he's got, obviously. They were 9-7 last year, but really on the scales, they're more talented than the team he was on last year that lost in the playoffs. So,
right. Oh,
you know, it's really not that hard to see. It's easy to appreciate as far as I'm concerned. I don't hate Brady. I've never hated Brady. I like watching him when he was in Michigan. And, you know, he was splitting time with a pretty good quarterback back then. So, you know, I got no issue with Tom Brady. I'm just going to sit back and enjoy the show. Young line versus old line.
There you go. Did he split time with Brian Grease, or was that Drew Henson?
No, it was last name started with an H. Not Chad Henne, but it was somebody else who was a baseball player.
Henson?
The guy was Henson.
Yeah, he played
Drew
with the
Henson?
Yankees, I think. Yeah, Drew Henson.
I think it was Drew Henson, yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
And Drew Henson went to the Yankees, I believe it was. And then finally came back to the NFL where he was less than stellar.
Right. He should have kept his ass a New York Yankee.
Well, quiet as kept. Drew Henson was a good college quarterback too.
He was. Oh, he was. I'm just saying, yeah, he did. It just happened that he did better as a pitcher, big league pitcher, but that's not here nor there.
Oh yeah. He made his money in baseball. You can believe that.
So, Rashad, what about you, brother? Pretty much open and shut as well.
Yeah, man, it's not even a discussion anymore. Like Previn said, man, closed case. And I wouldn't even say anti-Brady. I just kind of always wanted to see someone beat him. You know what I mean? And take him down. But he's cemented it. He's definitely the GOAT. And the crazy thing is, with his recent win in the NFC Championship, he now has as many NFC championships as both Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees in his first, isn't
that a trip?
Which is crazy. That's crazy.
A trip.
Both of them could be in the GOAT talk themselves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I think that things into perspective. It's not even an option for me anymore, Brady. And as much as I, back then would have hated to say it, he's definitely the GOAT. When you think about the cast that and the crazy thing is, a lot of people like to bring it to the conversation. Well, I want to see what he does this year now that he doesn't have Belichick. You know,
right?
Belichick carried him, and he's such a great coach. And some people have said, well, you know, it's both a collective effort. Well, Brady has now shown that, hey, he can win without Belichick, and it's not just, you know, the coaching that made the Patriots. And so,
right,
I think he's cemented it.
Case closed, like you said, or closed case. So D Nash, you the anchor, brother.
Well, first and foremost, you know, when the season began, there were a lot of people who believed that the Buccaneers would go 10-6, right?
Right.
They went 11-5, so not much further off that mark.
Mm-hmm.
There were a couple of things that I pointed out in my preview before the season started that a lot of people kind of scoffed at me when I said it. One of them being that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will have a fantastic running game behind Ronald Jones, not knowing that they would go ahead and pick up Leonard Fournette, which would also be a huge bonus to that situation, as well as LaShawn McCoy, even though McCoy really hasn't seen the field much more than I have this year for the Tampa Bay Bucks. Also, Todd Bowles. That's the one thing a lot of people have completely ignored this year is how good that Tampa defense has looked this past year. They looked good last year. It just happened to be that, unfortunately, Jameis put that defense in a lot of short field situations, which allowed them to get scored on and beat upon. That just happened to be what it was, but they did pretty good, you know, amongst the circumstances. You take that into consideration, along with the fact that Bruce Arians is his head coach. And like I said before, Todd Bowles is his defensive coordinator. Right. It's not like he had Adam Gase as his head coach. He didn't have that much of a drop-off, if a drop-off at all, if you look at the head coaching position. Well, I'm going to go ahead and say this is a drop-off from Belichick to Bruce Arians, but it's not like Bruce Arians is incompetent. He is a very competent head coach.
Oh, yeah.
So you have a competent head coach, an extremely competent defensive coordinator, talented defense. The skill position was extremely talented for him, probably the best he's ever seen in his entire career. It was going to take some growing pains for that team to make adjustments. I didn't think they would make the Super Bowl in year one.
I didn't
maybe year two.
Yeah.
But for them to do what they did is not beyond the realms of reach. The two things that I kind of wanted to ignore was the fact that Drew Brees was going to be playoff Drew. That's number one. And number two, the Green Bay Packers were going to be playoff Green Bay. Now, it's kind of easy to point the finger at Aaron Rodgers, but Aaron Rodgers had a respectable game, throwing well over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 pick. It just happened to be, like I said last week, Scott, a couple of mental errors that you needed to go ahead and shore up. One of those plays, of course, that everyone's been pointing out was that second and goal situation where it appeared as though he could have ran into the end zone and scored a touchdown and did not. And which could have given them at least a third and short, if not a touchdown. Yeah. But just mental gas. The fumbles by Aaron Jones. Once again, mental gas. The defensive pass interferences. The ones that were called and the ones that weren't called. But I digress.
They let them play.
Yeah.
Conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, except for that last pass interference. But I digress too on that. But still, you know, it's fantastic to see what we've seen out of Tom Brady throughout his entire career. And like you said, if there was any way you can get into a DeLorean right now and go back to 12-year-old me and say, hey, first and foremost, there's going to be a quarterback that makes 10 Super Bowls. I'm like, in what, Tecmo Bowl? Come on, son. Be real. Number two, if you'd have said, no, not only that, 9 of those Super Bowls would be with the New England Patriots. I would have attempted to slap that dude. Probably not hard because 12 me was pretty soft, but still, the accomplishments that this dude has done far surpass. I don't care what anyone says, and I know people like to pull the Joe Montana card. And yes, Joe Montana did what he did amongst a bunch of great teams. And yes, I'll go ahead and say the teams that Montana faced in the 80s were greater than the teams that Tom Brady has faced within his 20-year career. But even still, 10? 10 championships in any sport is insane to me, and I got to give it up to him. Yeah, even though I've already have the Flake Gate and all. I don't care about the Flake Gate. I always said that was some foolishness, man. But But yeah, how many Super Bowls has he been to since Deflategate? Exactly.
Yeah, there you go.
I lost
Case
count.
closed.
Exactly.
Case freaking closed.
Matter of fact, if look at it, if you just took his career post Deflategate, you would still think he was great. You'd be like, oh my God, what is that? 3-4 Super Bowls?
He has a lot to say about Deflategate, y'all. Can't you tell? Can't you tell?
Man, because I just got tired of Deflategate. So Deflategate was just the fact that it made its way to Congress.
That was the damn ridiculous. That was ridiculous right there. That's just
God.
That's crazy.
Man, let me reel it back from Deflategate, dude. That's just
I heard that. Yo, speaking of Green Bay, speaking of Aaron Rodgers, I gotta ask y'all this. This is a big deal. Remember when Coach Matt LaFleur opted to go for a field goal on 4th down when they were down 8 with 2 minutes and change left to go in the ball game? And we were probably wondering, I don't know how you brothers reacted, but I was like, at first, like, oh, okay, I see it. I get it. Like, take the points and get the ball back. Except that quarterback you're trying to get the ball from is Tom freaking Brady, right? So, okay, let's set the scene. You're down 8 points. It's 4th down. You're at home in the NFC Championship game. You have Aaron freaking Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers, Mr. McCrookerberry himself at quarterback. That only 8 yards away from the end zone. Could have been close if he ran for it. Maybe he would score, but that's not here nor there either. But anyway, you're a 4th and goal situation. You're at home, a triple on the line. Why don't you go for the touchdown? Get the 2-point conversion tie, because you get the field goal. Guess what? If you do, even if you get the stop, still needs a touchdown.
You'll need to
win it this time. So I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it the same way again. Previn, am I crazy for thinking that LaFleur should not have listened to analytics, should not have listened to the number nerds, and just went for it on 4th down when he had a chance?
Well, there's been a lot of number nerds all on TV all week long saying our numbers don't match up with what his numbers did. Mm-hmm. I am still kind of beyond baffled on that analytics aside, because I'm not really into the football analytics anyway. Mm-hmm. I guess I kind of just continue to focus on the circumstance of what seemed to be a communications breakdown, where the coach, there's a disconnect between the coach and the quarterback about the nature of the what would have been or could have been a 4-down situation. My understanding was that Rodgers actually called the play on 3rd down,
right?
And given that it didn't work out, led to the decision not to, I guess, allow Rodgers to have another shot at it. Now, going back to high school and middle school, under that circumstance, it doesn't really matter what the analytics said. Of course, I was in high school a long time ago. The best player on your team gets the ball in his hands in that situation. End of story. Mm-hmm. But it's not the first time we've ever seen a coach blow it on 4th down, taking the ball out of the best hands on their team. It only happened in a Super Bowl a few years ago, against Tom Brady, by the way. But we don't need to even go into that. One of our colleagues that we all know, we've had this discussion a few times. Hypothetically situation, actually going back to that Super Bowl, where, in my mind and perhaps in his, you got these coaches, and I think they just want to control. They're thinking beyond the points, wins, and losses, and they just want to control the narrative of the situation. It's really bizarre. Why wouldn't you let Aaron Rodgers fire that shot?
Right. Why do it?
Yeah, I'm baffled on that.
Yeah, I don't get that whatsoever.
I'm so baffled, I've run out of words to say I'm confused.
Like, dude, like, what? That's crazy. So how about you, Rashad? I'm sure you're sharing a brain with our boy here.
Yeah, I'm with you, Scott and Previn. I'm beyond baffled as well. I just don't get that, having a GOAT quarterback in and of himself with the ball. I don't see why you don't go for it. And then not only that situation, but I thought Aaron should have ran it on third down. But still, you put the ball in the hands of your best player. He's having an MVP season. He's playing, great. And I just think that sometimes coaches get too cute. You're making millions of dollars to make good decisions. And so to me, that was a horrible decision. Like you said, I understand taking the points there, but even with the 3, you have to come back and score anyway. It's still a one possession game. And so I just don't understand that. I'm still trying to wrap my brain around why he did that. And LaFleur, I think he kind of felt it, because even in a lot of his post-game interviews, he just had that look on his face like, I knew it, but I didn't do it. And so he kind of blew that, and I think he knows it.
And he said so as much during his conference. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, I was just saying that same look on his face that Pete Carroll had.
Yeah, right, exactly. Right. Give beast mode the ball.
I'm still in therapy over that call, but go ahead.
Yeah, man.
It's crazy. All right, D.
Well, first and foremost, right? It looks like I'm the only person who was in opposition to agree with Pete Carroll with that call. You talk about having the ball in the best player's hands. The best player is most definitely Russell Wilson. Stop playing. And the only other person I've seen that ever agrees with me in that situation is Bart Scott, which is scary in itself, but I digress, right?
Good champ.
But yeah, so instead of making this boring, I'm going to go ahead and look at it from, I hate to say devil's advocate. I'm going to go ahead and say the LaFleur advocate, right? I'm going to say that a little bit of Matt LaFleur from his time of being here in D.C. has stuck with me, and I'm going to go ahead and look at it from his lens, right? You have the ball in the hands of your best player for first, second, and third down within the goal region, right?
Right.
And not only does he not decide to run the ball or make a good decision on second down where he throws an incomplete pass, he does it again on third down. And you're like, okay, do I dare give him an opportunity to do this again on fourth down, or do I go ahead and take the points? So, and also the way that the defense has looked, especially in the fourth quarter, where they've been capable of getting turnovers, it's a possibility that not only will they, it's a possibility that they can either turn the ball over or get them out on downs, right? And get the ball back. So let's just go ahead and get the guaranteed points, give them the ball back, leave it into our hands of our defense, and hopefully they make plays. But it goes back to that one thing that I talked about again last week, Scott. I hate being here. The one thing, it sounds like I'm gloating a lot of times when I do this, but I hate doing this. I hate being Nostradamus.
You don't hate it. Embrace it. Embrace that shit.
You know what? It's a lot. I do love it. I do enjoy being Nostradamus. Just like I said last week, mental mistakes, right? Mental mistakes in that last drive is what really hurt them. You had the 12 men on the field, mental gaff. Right. You had that encroachment, mental gaff. Pass interference, he was getting beat anyway. I understand why he did it, but you don't want to give up the 7. It's fine. It is fine, but just play better defense in that situation. It's kind of a mental gaffe, but at the same time, you don't want to give up the 6. But you still had 2 mental gaffes by that defense, which allowed them to go ahead, run the clock out, and do that. So if that defense plays more discipline, in that situation, there's a possibility they can go ahead, get them off the field, get the ball back in Aaron Rodgers' hands, and potentially score a touchdown. So I understand why LaFleur did it. I don't know if it would have been real tough for me to say whether or not I would have done that or not. It's easy to do it, of course, as a Monday morning coach. But within that situation, I'm just thinking, dude, okay, go ahead, take the points. The defense has been doing what they've been doing. Get them back on the field. Hopefully they can go ahead and save us and put us in a situation to go ahead, take this out and win this one. But once again, the Green Bay Packers played like playoff Green Bay Packers.
There you go. Aaron Rodgers became playoff Aaron Rodgers. Do you know that he's only won one NFC champ? I mean, he's 1-4 in NFC championship games.
Yeah.
1-4.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
The greatest player of football.
5, though.
See what now?
He's been to 5, though.
Yeah, he has been to 5.
Yeah, I guess so.
He's been to 5. He's also 6-6 in his last 6 playoff appearance. Well, the last 6 years making it to the playoffs. So It's him, but it's not necessarily him because he's had great performances when he's made it to the playoffs. Mm-hmm. It's just been mental gas on the rest of the team.
Right. So they
along from him, he just had to. It's been one or two plays on his part, but yeah, all this talk about moving on from Aaron Rodgers, with the Green Bay Packers. Take it from me, for a team of a fan of an organization who's been looking for a quarterback for what? 10, 20, 30, my entire lifetime, you might not want to go ahead and do that. You've gone from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers back to back.
Oh,
and I've had to look at the likes of Joe Theismann get hurt, Doug Williams get shunned after a Super Bowl win, right. Jay Schrader, BJ Schrader, Mark Rippon had one fantastic year, but I don't want to sit here and just cry about the Washington football team because I could do that for an entire hour. We don't have that kind of time. We don't have that kind of time, dude.
Well, you know what?
Hey, y'all did have Mark Brunell.
You know, right?
Well, if it makes you feel better,
good years with Mark Brunell.
It was a good years with Mark Brunell and with Brad Johnson, but just wasn't good enough.
Long neck Brad Johnson with that 10-foot long neck. If it makes you feel any better, the same with you, Previn, same with you, Rashad. If it makes y'all feel any better, you're gonna probably kick my ass for saying this, but I felt your pain as a Steelers fan in the 80s. When Terry Bradshaw retired at the end of the 1982 season, we had a run of, Bubby Brister, Neil Ahoa to the damn ball too long, Mark Malone, Cliff Stout, David Woodley in the trade from with the Dolphins. Yes, I'm not old. And also Cordell Stewart, which broke my heart. I wanted him to work out so well. Obviously he didn't. Tommy Maddox, touchdown Tommy Maddox, Jim Miller. Am I forgetting anyone? I don't know if I am. Oh, Tommy Maddox. Maddox. So we had to run those runs of quarterbacks from 1983 on to when Big Ben was drafted in 2004.
Yeah.
Could be worse.
No, but at least you had playoff years with some of them kids.
Well, that's true too. But those were by the grace of God. That was from the grace of God.
The NFC Championship game with Cordell.
That's correct. Yeah. Two of them.
Yep.
Yeah, two of them.
That's right. Two of them, yes.
Yeah, two of them, which he literally threw the game away in both of those games. But again, as we had playoff prepares, but we had that franchise quarterback for damn near 20 years.
Yeah.
So
I was a big Santonio Holmes guy. Not to cut you off, Scott.
No, that's all right. Hey, I love him. He got to get high.
I always remember that touchdown in the corner of the end zone from Ben to him.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Super Bowl that year, man. That was one of those iconic moments.
Yep. The toe tap.
Yeah, the toe tap.
Toe tap. Again. But we may, and it goes, and y'all, depending on how we handle the Big Ben Roethlisberger situation, we may go through another 20 years to find a franchise quarterback. But that's not.
What you mean? You got the savior already in house and Dwayne Haskins. What you talking about?
Just trade along. Moving right along. All right,
that's the key.
Yeah, we're going to get to the crux of this. Why I have my two guests on, because we normally rap about all things HBCU athletics. We pertains to athletics, especially, namely football. Let's just be real. Football, even though A&T has the second-ranked track team in the country.
Let them know.
That's big. That's big. And I'm a track coach, man. I'm a high school.
That's right. You are.
Big salute to A&T and what they're doing, man.
Yes.
Ross is
thank you.
Amazing.
Yes, sir. So, anyway.
Like I got something to do with it, but I say thank you.
You gotta own it, man.
And they just signed a top 5 recruit on the women's side coming out of high school, man. They're getting
to Georgia,
we're getting them.
Ross.
That young lady can run. Yeah,
we are getting them. We are freaking getting them.
Wayne freaking Ross, dude. I swear, dude.
Yeah, man. He's the man. But in this case, instead of talking about what we love in HBCU athletics that we just touched on right now, we gotta get to the sad part of the whole deal. NFL just recently had this hiring cycle. Every year is a Black Monday right at the end of the regular season, right? And you figure, especially after not only what happened last offseason, but what happened during like shortly thereafter the offseason, which with George Floyd's murder. right? In Minneapolis. I'm not gonna call it a killing. I'm gonna call it a murder. That's what
it was.
Right, it was. Right.
That's just call it for what it was. But anyway, I say that because a lot of organizations, y'all remember, all those organizations pledged to learn more about things about white supremacy, systemic racism, more the lack of minority hiring when it comes to upper executive managerial positions or whatnot. You had a lot of I think Target, Walmart, Google, a bunch of Silicon Valley companies putting out tweets promoting, wanting to pledge to improve, which is fine. It's lip service, but I mean, that's a start. And then one of those being the NFL after the Black Stars, including, headlined by, if you will, Patrick Mahomes, put out a video statement that said Black Lives Matter, which made the NFL and Roger Goodell say Black Lives Matter. So I'm saying all this to say they all pledged, all the teams, all 32 teams pledged to do better when it comes to minority hiring. All right, so fast forward to that first Monday in January after the season. I got a list of NFL hires. You guys know the NFL hires. I'm
yes,
just gonna read it out
right
to
in front of me.
But I'm gonna read it out to you anyway. Because again, I wanted to start now because I know all of you guys have a lot to say, and I want you guys to have a lot to say. We got time, all right? So we got time. So I'm gonna start with the New York Jets, who typically get it wrong. They hired a guy named Robert Saleh. He's the former defensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers. Now, he is the first Muslim American to coach, which is cool, awesome. I think he makes himself to be brown, which is great. I mean, he technically is a minority. All right, so that's cool. We're moving right along. The Chargers hired a dude named Brandon Staley, who's a former Rams defensive coordinator, which goes to show you again, if you even as much jerk off the Rams head coach, I forget the motherfucker's name, but if you
Sean McVay.
So if you made the appearance of jerking him off, you're gonna get a shot. All right. So let's move on to the Detroit Lions. You got a dude named Dan Campbell, who's a former NFL player, decent NFL player, but he was assistant tight ends coach. Okay. No one being assistant tight ends coach, but he's not a coordinator. And he also gave us the press conference to remember when he said, if you get knocked down, then we're gonna be biting some knees. I know you can bite knees in the NFL, but hey, who knows? The Atlanta Falcons.
I'm sure a lot of knees get bitten in the NFL.
Yeah, but it's the one thing.
It's happening on those piles.
I mean, yeah, that's one thing, but it's another thing to just have a coach who's supposed to be the face of your franchise, one of the faces of your franchise, to publicly say we're gonna be biting some knees. I don't want to know what you've been doing, bruh, but you don't. Anyway, I mean, just imagine if Jim Caldwell said some stupid shit like that. That's all I'm gonna say. Move right along to the Atlanta Falcons. Arthur Smith was former offensive coordinator for the Titans. Okay. I mean, he basically resurrected Ryan Tannehill's career. I get it. He helped Derrick Henry to 2,000-yard season and make him into what he is. I get it. Okay. But still, the Jaguars, Urban Meyer. Didn't have any head coach appearance, but he's Urban freaking Meyer. Okay. Moving right along. The Philadelphia Eagles, this will get me. This is what gets me. The Philadelphia Eagles hired a dude named Nick Sirianni. Who is he, you might ask? He's a former Ghost offensive coordinator, but guess what? He didn't call plays. Frank Reich, the head coach, called the plays. So remember when owners executives laid out criteria, which seems to be ever changing. It seems to me that the goal line is being moved further and further and further every year. You got to have coordinating experience. All right. Dan Campbell wasn't the coordinator last year. You got to call your plays. Nick Sirianni didn't call his own plays. And then the year before that, when the Giants hired Joe
Judge.
Yep.
He was former assistant special teams coach. Come on. So you give me these guidelines, but yet you have guys like, we know the names, Eric Bienemy, Leslie Frazier, who's been calling plays. Now, people used to not be enemy for not calling plays, forgetting that Nagy in Chicago never called plays under Andy Reid. Doug Peterson, formerly in Philadelphia, never called the plays under Andy Reid, but you're going to harp that on with Eric Bienemy. Never mind that he's been calling the plays the last 2 seasons because Andy Reid wanted to give him some love. He wanted to help him. He is helping him. But he's still been shut out of opportunities. He's been interviewed, but been shut of opportunities. And what bothered me the most, fellas, and I promise I'll stop talking, but I got a lot to say, is that these reports coming out that Bienemy doesn't interview well. Okay, you can say that about the other candidates that can get the job because they didn't like something about the other candidates. So why the hell are you going to say anything about Bienemy other than to do 2 things? A, cover your own ass, and B, try to taint the brother, try to give him a black mark. No pun intended. So, and also, I mean, and I'm not harping on just the black coordinators. I'll probably put it up here. I mean, you still got some others out there. I mean, you still got Don Wink Martindale in Baltimore, defensive coordinator. Brian Dable in Buffalo. I mean, damn good candidates who's been doing it for a while. But it seems like they want to hire the young, the young white, the next young hot white thing. Okay, so it's just that to me, and we'll get to the coordinators and the general managers later. But I'm gonna first get you all's thoughts on this because I'm tired of talking about this because I got a lot to say later on. I need a break. So we're going to keep the same. So I'm going to start with Previn, Shad, D Nash, my co-host. So Previn, I know you got a lot to say about this. So floor is yours.
Yeah, listening to you, my thoughts got completely disorganized. I'm going to try and put them back together because you were covering a lot of the ground that I thought I was going to cover. I've had a lot of sidebar conversations, and you try to keep these brief, especially on social media, because you don't want to be spending all day long typing with your thumbs on social media, right, arguing with somebody about something, when in fact, you're really in agreement, but you're arguing about little details. So, you got Eric Bienemy, obviously. He's the he's the eye of the storm here.
Correct.
Because he's anchored to this success of the Chiefs organization. Might I also add, of course, we mentioned Leslie Frazier. We got in Tampa Bay, Byron Leftwich calls plays.
Yes.
More significance actually in Tampa Bay, Todd Bowles, former head coach, who calls plays. Defensive, but that doesn't count. Calling plays on defense doesn't count for anything. Okay. Which kind of, when I think of Todd Bowles, and we think of these situations, some of these jobs that come open, come close, and the actual desirability of some of those jobs. I'm not going to sandbag Eric Bienemy for a quote unquote bad interview, but there's 4 of us on here. All 4 of us have interviewed for jobs. Have we ever, can anybody else say they've interviewed for a job because you're just kind of going through the motions, just seeing if you could get a hit on it? You didn't really want the job. Can anybody say that?
Nope, the jobs I applied for.
Okay.
The jobs.
I've had a couple. All right.
Yeah. Good point.
I'm not saying, and I'm not saying Bienemy did this, but one thing I am thinking of is, there's some people trying to shoehorn him in particular into this Texans situation, and that's not the only bad situation in NFL. And I'm kind of going off the topic here if we're talking about morals and righteousness, but hey, look, man, some of these brothers have been taking some of these bad jobs because they felt that they had to do it. Yeah, because it was they thought there was not going to be another opportunity.
1 of 32.
I'll say I will point to Todd Bowles. Let's not forget the Jets. Todd Bowles won 10 games in his first year. coaching the Jets with a
With
team
Ryan
built
Fitzpatrick.
to win about,
Right.
With Ryan Fitzpatrick.
with a team really built
Right.
to win about 4 games. He won 10. So management proceeded to completely defang the roster to the point where Todd Bowles was not able to compete, and they fired him to get to Adam Gase.
Yeah.
Who's in a hurry to be the next Todd Bowles in a situation like that, really?
Right. Right.
And I mean, and let's face it, we're talking about now. Let's point the finger back at the Texans, who I guess they want a biscuit or something for finally interviewing Bienemy when they said they had no interest in interviewing him earlier. Clear indicator, they don't want you. Right. I don't want to work for somebody who doesn't want me.
Exactly.
You know, if you're the black coach, okay? So the old thing, you want to say, if you're not the guy they want, then you're not going to be treated like the guy they want. Hey, look, if you're the black coach, I'd settle for being in the top 3. This isn't the case of somebody being in the top 3. Now, we got an ownership group that, the family is rooted in some conservative leanings, shall we say. Cal McNair's father famously said, a little comment about, the inmates running the prison.
Yeah.
We're probably talking about an ownership group that is, they're in the bunker mindset. We're not going to let the media, we're not going to let players dictate to us how we make our hires. We're not even going to let a firm that we paid over $100,000 to tell us who we hire for our personnel.
Right.
So there's a lot of really interesting things going on in motion here. The physics of all this is really kind of crazy, and we get these dynamics all put together in this social upheaval climate that we find ourselves in. And it's sort of like, the perfect storm. Eric Bienemy's in the middle of it, though he's not the only one. And I mean, a lot of things that we always knew about the good old boys, the country club that is the NFL, it was always there. We always knew it. It's just now more to the forefront.
Right. And I don't know if it's going to get better anytime soon. So Rashad, I know you're chomping at the bit too. So
was I disorganized enough?
No, you're good. You're good, bro. You're good. You're totally good.
No, you guys have both made excellent points so far, and it's kind of tough to go after that with the name drops because a lot of your thoughts was exactly what I was thinking. But I will say there's been a history of this, guys, and it's been going on for quite a while, decades, and I even think back to Tony Dungy, in the early 2000s, him with that Tampa Bay team and really molding and building that team, only for them to fire him after a playoff season.
Yes.
And bring in my man from the Raiders, John Gruden.
John Gruden, yeah, traded for him.
Win the Super Bowl the next year, and I always thought that was the team that Dungy built. And so the NFL hasn't progressed at all in decades. I was reading a stat that said even since the 1990s, and you think from the 1990s to now, currently, you think about the NFL where it's 74% black, right? And only 13% of the coaches are African American. Such a disparity when you think of the players in relation to the coaches and the percentage as a minority. That's crazy. Same thing in the NBA, 83% black, and they have a higher number with 30% of the coaches being black. But I mean, the NFL has dropped the ball on so many occasions. I think about the Rooney Rule. That's simply not working.
No, it's been bastardized.
Right. They can say what they want to about it, but I think it was put in place just to, to kind of woo us for a while and make us think that they were trying to make progress. But I mean, they're not using it the right way. And now I'm just going to put a name of a black coach here just to interview him, knowing darn well I'm not going to hire him. Like, stop playing with us. We're not the puppets. And so so many occasions on where they dropped the ball. I even think about Anthony Lynn in LA. And I thought that he was, and I hate to use this term, but on the proverbial leash. I thought the leash was short for him. Granted, he was there for 4 years, but when you think about this past season with the injuries that he went through, the outs and so many things.
That's 2 seasons, yeah.
Right. And so, another name that I thought about, though, and I think this guy is on the rise and he should get an opportunity, Duce Staley. I love Duce, man. He was a great player, and he's been, a great coach for a while, kind of in the shadows, running back coach there. And I keep hearing reports about him moving up and, his opportunity is coming, but I want to see him definitely do something. So we have several guys that are more than qualified and are right there, but we do need to get that opportunity. And I hope when we do, we take it and run with it. And, I think it's bigger than just Mike Tomlin. We have more to offer.
Yes,
and,
hell yes.
And he's doing a hell of a job in Pittsburgh, Granted, this season didn't go quite as well as they wanted to, but, he's already
never had a losing season.
Right. And so, that I just think we have to do better in regards to hiring African-Americans. Definitely.
And I have a story after Dwayne goes. I have a Duce Staley story as it relates to the current Eagles job momentarily. But D,
okay,
I'll let you
awesome,
go ahead.
awesome.
Yeah, I'll let you go.
Oh man. Here, let me throw a couple of numbers at you, being the son of a statistician. Since 2017, there have been 25 teams that have hired new head coaches dating back to the past 4 years. So that means it's 33 hires, right?
Right.
Because there have been several teams that have hired twice. If you want to be technical, 34, if you want to count the Indianapolis Colts that hired Josh McDaniels, and then of course he reneged on them, and then they had to go in and get Frank Wright. But even with those 33 hirings, only 6 were minority hires. So that's a travesty right there. That's less than 20% of the hirings that were made in the past 4 or 5 years that are minority coaches. To Previn's point, and he is completely right. And it's something that I've heard many people say, that a lot of times when they bring in minorities, especially black head coaches, to come in and matter of fact, not even black coaches, when they bring in minority coaches, they bring them into situations that are far from desirable, right?
Right.
If you look at a lot of the head coaches that a lot of the black coaches who are no longer in head coaching positions that are now assistants, like your Todd Bowles, like Vance Joseph, who was removed in Denver, and Steve Wilson was removed in 1 year in Arizona. A lot of these guys were coming into situations where the teams were bad before they got there. And unfortunately, they didn't get help from GMs to help them out with bringing in better plate pieces. Of those 3 guys that I just named, Vance Joseph is the one that came into Denver, whose record was 9-7 before he got there under Gary Kubiak.
Right.
But unfortunately, your boy John Elway, a great QB in himself, sorry, Previn, just happens to be a horrible GM and has yet to bring in.
He did quit. He fired himself.
He fired himself. It takes a big man to fire yourself. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna go ahead and say, Jerry Jones, you might want to listen to that, but I digress. So yeah, he followed up Gary Kubiak, and the quarterback that they had there was one Brock Osweiler. Brock Osweiler was looked at to be the savior there in Denver. Now, he had a slightly above 500 record as a QB under Greg Kubiak, and let's be real, folks. When you talk about QB records, of course, it has to do more with just QBs. It also has to deal with special teams and defense. But yeah, that defense dipped. That team was also 5-5 under Brock Osweiler with Vance Joseph. But once he got hurt, that team went 0-6, and they could never find a replacement for Brock. And that defense just progressively got worse, along with the fact that they could never find a good QB to get in there. And yes, after 2 seasons, Vance was out of there. So yeah, a lot of these spots are just completely undesirable. And I understand, yes, they're one of 32, but my God, to come in and have to be forced to be a savior, and you get little to no help from the likes of, say, Mike Brown and Cincinnati, whoever the GM was in in Cleveland before Andrew Berry got there. Whoever the hell the GM is in LA for the Chargers, they had to go ahead and replace Anthony Lynn. Whoever the hell the GM is with the Jets, all of these bad GMs, hell, whoever the GM is, and of course, that was a huge question mark until they finally decided to hire a GM here in DC. Whoever that GM is to fill that spot here, which is another bad organization that could never seem to hold a coach down. And what do? They hire a minority to come in and fix it up. And thank God he did come in and do that. Yes, I'll take that 79 division championship all day, every day, even though I hated it at first. But yeah, that's exactly what happens in these situations. So to the cases of the Bienemies, like you said, a good shout out, Rashad, for pulling up Duce Staley, because that's another guy who gets ignored in this situation. Jim Calhoun, who was fired after going 10-6. His final year.
Jim Caldwell. Yeah.
Caldwell, I'm sorry, Jim Caldwell going 10-6 in the Lions, and he barely won.
Lovie Smith was fired after going 10-6.
Right. Exactly. Lovie Smith, Marvin Lewis, who couldn't get no help from Mike Brown after going 12-4.
Made the Bengals respectable.
Yeah, he made the Bengals extremely respectable in his time there. Could never get no help. Todd Bowles, another up in New York, he followed Rex Ryan, who was 4-12, and I guess they were looking for him to come in and be a savior. Really, dude? Come on, what pieces? What pieces? So if you don't give these dudes what they need in order to win, how can you expect them to come in and win these situations? So yeah, just like you guys said, if I'm Eric Bienemy, I'm taking my time in this situation and making sure that the situation benefits me instead of rushing myself to get into that spot to go ahead and take one of those 32. I understand there's a drought. And I also understand that there's a drought at the GM spot. Because if you look at it, there are four minority
we'll get to that in a moment. Yeah, we'll get to that in a moment. Yeah.
Okay, I guess I won't get into that right now. But yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, just take your time, dude, man, and choose the situation that's right for you. Because as we've seen, especially in recent history, that these GMs and these owners aren't bringing these black coaches into the best of situations.
Correct.
And to have this rule, this Rooney rule attached to Dan Rooney, man, he's probably spinning in his grave right now because I know this is not what he intended this thing to be. And It's been bastardized, and there is no way of fixing it.
Actually, I was thinking that, Dan Rooney's somewhere in his grave saying, hey, look at my team. We did our part.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. Right. We empowered our guy. Look how successful we've been. But anyway, and one more name that I didn't mention, and you guys will appreciate, Pep Hamilton.
Boy, Pep Hamilton and Raheem Morris.
Right, Raheem Morris too. Yep. Because remember, Pep Hamilton, I know Dean knows this, Pep Hamilton was wrongly fired in Indianapolis because what's his name? Former coach Chuck Pagano needed a scapegoat.
Yeah.
Remember that? He needed a scapegoat. The scapegoat was Pep Hamilton. So,
Yeah, I asked years ago about Pep, and shout out to Pep, who was a Howard alum, used to play QB up at Howard. I asked this NFL expert, this guy who's a beat writer for I forget what team it was, about Pep potentially being hired as a head coach, and he told me he didn't have enough experience to be a head coach at the time after being an offensive coordinator for about 4 to 5 years with the Colts. And I said to him, he doesn't have enough experience, but yet Jay Gruden does. Yeah. Are you kidding me? And then based upon what we've seen over what we've seen over the past 2 seasons with the litany of guys that have been hired.
Yeah.
Again, are you kidding me? Right. He doesn't have enough experience.
Nick Sirianni has experience. Are you sure about that?
Come on, bro.
But I'll tell you what. This is breaking news. This is breaking news, fellas. Right quick. The Houston Texans made a hire. It's not Eric Bienemy.
Of course not.
It's not Leslie Frazier. Right. It's not Raheem Morris. But it is David Culley. Who's David Culley, you might ask?
Yeah.
He's a former assistant in Philadelphia. He spent 27 years in the game. And he was recently the assistant head coach, wide receivers coach, passing game coordinator in Baltimore. But another tidbit is he's black. So There's something.
Somebody had to take the job.
Yeah, somebody
had to take the job. You know,
yeah, he's been rumored to be kind of like the head coach, like the coaching and waiting or whatever you want to call it. The hot. There's all of a sudden the hot candidate. But I guess. But the point is that again, with Deshaun Watson wanting out, Houston is another shitty situation. We've come exactly. We talked about it.
Yeah.
So again, I know it's
not just Deshaun Watson going out, but the draft picks that Bill O'Brien.
They have none. Thanks to Bill O'Brien.
Let's not even mention losing DeAndre Hopkins. I mean,
and losing
God.
Yeah. But Rashad, I'll say this, right? I understood the DeAndre Hopkins situation because of the amount of money that he wanted. And Houston was probably like, you know what, dude? We don't want to give him that dough. So I understood it. If I was a Houston fan,
I would have gotten something out of the trade.
They gotten more from it, though.
They should have gotten more out of the trade. But once again, that's Bill O'Brien being Bill O'Brien. And that's why he is where he is. What's that, Alabama?
No, he's Alabama.
Nick Saban coaching
rehab. He's failing up.
Yes, he's failing up to get ready to become another head coach someplace else. But I digress. Yeah. It's just interesting that the head coach that you said was hired in Houston, he's off that Andy Reid tree. Just kind of like Nick Sirianni, who was an assistant under who? He was an assistant under, what's your boy's name that's in Indianapolis right now? Frank Wright.
Frank Wright.
Yeah. So he's an assistant under Frank Wright, who was an assistant under Andy Reid. So that's how Sirianni got to Philly. He has that Andy Reid family tree behind him. So that's
show some love for Bienemy. That would have been a great spot for Bienemy.
Is that what you're saying?
He got the quarterback. He has two quarterbacks that he could work with. And they have some draft capital. They can upgrade the skill position. They need help with those. I mean, they got a late round pick who did well. I forget his name. Wide receiver. But anyway, the point is that was a tailor-made situation. There, he has the offensive talent. But speaking of Phil, I want to get this Duce Staley news right quick. Mm-hmm. There's a parent, I've read this somewhere. I don't want to take it as gospel, but if you put two and two together, it makes a little bit of sense. Now, we all know about Howie Roseman. Howie Roseman is the GM. He's the executive. He's the GC, if you will, the head guy in charge. But anyway,
he's got the big office.
Yeah, he has a real big office. I said I messed up the acronym, but at any rate, the point is that he's been pulling the strings for the past few years, right? With Chip Kelly, then with Doug Peterson, and now with this guy. He said that it's rumored that the team really wanted Duce Staley to coach them. Because again, to Rashad's point, Duce Staley's been around for a while coaching. He's well respected. He's a Philly guy. He played for the Eagles. Played the Steelers, but most of his career was in Philadelphia. He's been coaching under, I think he coached under Reid, didn't he?
Yeah.
I think he broke his teeth, I think on Reid in Philly.
Yeah, and so he stayed there with Peterson because Peterson is another Andy Reid guy too. So the team wanted him. They really wanted Staley. The executives wanted someone who they could control, right? Because one of the things that got Peterson fired was that they wanted Peterson not to play. Again, this is what I've read. They didn't want him to play the rookie quarterback in the last game of the season against Washington.
God, what is his name? I see his face. Fields.
No.
Not Fields. What's his name?
Jalen Hurts.
God, Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts. Yeah.
So I blanked on his name, but anyway, they didn't want him to play Jalen Hurts the whole game, even though Philly was in position to beat Washington. But they didn't want anyway. Yeah, I see you. Anyway, the point is, I like needling him. But the point is that they were playing okay. And so remember when he mysteriously yanked him and put in that backup to the backup?
Nasty Nate,
Nasty Nate, your boy Nasty Nate said,
my man, Nasty Nate.
He was nasty too.
Yeah, he played nasty.
He always nasty. Yeah, I like Nate.
Yeah, y'all crazy.
Was Peterman not available?
No, I guess not. I guess they didn't dust him off. But the thing was that remember that reports of players who wanted to physically go after Peterson because they figured they yanked the rug from underneath him. But instead, as reports I've read, that decision came from upstairs. And one of the things that got him officially fired, in addition to his frayed relationship with the current starter quarterback, Carson Wentz, was that apparently Roseman and company wanted Peterson to fire some of his assistants that Peterson was loyal to. He was like, nah, I'm not gonna fire. I'm not. There's one thing for you to make me play the scrub in the place of Jalen Hurts, where Jalen Hurts was doing okay. Is another thing to get me to fire half my crew. No, you told him no, and so that's one of the reasons why he's gone. So basically they wanted someone apparently they could control. Enter this dude Nick Sirianni, a young coach, younger than we are, which was first head coach opportunity. Not a lot of experience as a coordinator. Didn't even call the plays in Indianapolis. We all mentioned that. And so of course he had a guy. The tickets that did like the keys to a car that doesn't have a lot of experience, he's grateful. You can't be mad at Sirianni, so of course he's going to say, yeah, I'm going to do whatever you think you say, come hell or high water. So basically the one constant with all these these coaching hires in Philly, from Andy Reid to this guy, is Howie Roseman. A lot of people in Philadelphia are not high on Roseman at all, hadn't been for a long time. So I just want to throw that mix in there as far as the Duce Staley story, because Duce Staley was apparently getting a lot of love for the position, but management wanted someone that they could control. Duce Staley is not the one to be controlled.
Right. He's not built like that.
No, he's definitely not built like that. But I want to go on to some more things, guys. This is another wrinkle to this.
That kind of falls into that doesn't interview well category then, don't it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And, I just find it funny. Do you want to do that interviews well, or do you want to do that has proven experience and has proven that he's capable of being able to handle a job like that in other situations?
And being a leader
being a leader of men in that type of situation, which, of course, a lot of these guys have. But, hey, if that's not what you want, hey, I kind of don't begrudge these dudes for what they do, because it's your business, right? It's your place of business. You're the leader of that spot, right?
Yeah.
Yes. The thing is, you can't complain when you get the product that you get, because you chose it. Yeah. There's been capable head coaches out there that you just willfully bypassed. That's on you. That's your choice, dude. Mm-hmm. And then of course, not only do you hire these dudes, like I said before, you don't give them pieces for them to win. So as a fan of these black coaches, I'm glad they didn't go there. I'm concerned for Robert Salah. I really am.
Me too.
Are they going to give him what he needs
and people say in New York? People say he's a good man and a good coach.
Yeah. So hopefully he's capable of going there and turning that Jets defense around at least. But yeah, what are they going to do on the offensive side of the ball? Are they going to keep Sam Bradford? Does he believe, or does his offensive coordinator? I'm sorry, Sam Darnold.
He played like Sam Bradford.
Right.
Almost same dude, right? God, somebody, I swear, man, there's so many names swirling in my head, man.
It's a voice.
Went back to Boomer Sooner.
You know what it is? It's these glasses, dude. I don't wear no glasses. I'm over here trying to look cool and whatnot, man, I'm doing too much. So yeah, with Sam Darnold, man, who knows what they're going to do with this dude and whether or not he's going to be the quarterback there. But yeah, he had a lot of decisions that he needs to make, and I'm wondering how long of a leash they're going to give Sam Darnold, the likes of Sam Darnold, in order to go and clean it up. But to an earlier point, and I'm bringing this up with Dan Campbell. Unfortunately, remember he was the replacement for Joe Philbin in Miami. When Philbin got fired down there during the whole bullying situation, and he was able to at least make that team respectable. But yeah, he's one of those hat on the hat head coaches. Let's do the Oklahoma drill, old school dudes, talk about biting off kneecaps.
Yeah.
I kind of feel bad for their recent GM hire, Brad Holmes there. Shout out to A&T. Defensive lineman there.
Yeah.
That they had to go ahead and bring him in because he just sounds like a lot of the other head coaches that they bring in to follow Jim Caldwell. Hopefully hopefully Holmes is going to be able to bring in quality players to help this dude out, especially as it pertains to them getting a new QB and finally establishing a running back there, because they've never had a good running back ever since Barry Sanders left. But my God, Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell got a lot of work to do. But yeah, we probably got a little bit more to say about Holmes as we talk about the minority GMs.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because we're going to segue into GMs. I mean, yeah, we're rightfully bitching about the lack of minority hires and head coaches and general managers. I would say this. Now, the Falcons hired Terry Fontenot, right?
Yeah.
Washington football team hired, your boys hired Martin Mayhew.
Yeah.
And the Lions, of course, we mentioned Brad Holmes, Aggie. So there's three. There's three out of 32, right?
No, technically it's six. It's six.
Okay.
Because there were already three before they got hired.
Okay, so yeah, so enlighten me. So I need to get that. Nick Caserio.
Yeah, I think they consider him a minority, I guess. So
So
really? Okay, I didn't know that.
Andrew Berry in Cleveland.
Right.
And I'm trying to remember who is the other one.
Right.
My God, I can't remember who the other one is.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Martin Mayhew one was a surprise for everyone. Because
formerly in Detroit.
Yeah, I forget who the
He's
GM,
got experience.
He does have experience. And I'm glad that they brought him in. My question is, what will his role be? Because something that I'm starting to learn right now, right, is general manager is just that in title alone, right? Because
they get hired after the coach. After the coach gets hired.
Especially being hired after the coach, right?
Yes.
So like the things that we learned, the things that we were told that general managers do in the NFL, actually in all sports, it seems as though that the role of general manager changes from all 32 teams. It's completely different. You do have GMs that do make picks and that are responsible for bringing in the talent and hiring head coaches, along with helping them to hire assistant coaches or whatever. But you also have GMs that are, I don't want to call them necessarily yes men, but GMs that work alongside head coaches to give these head coaches what it is that they want, or hell, for lack of a better term, yes men for these head coaches, especially if it's a situation where a GM is hired after a head coach. I've never understood that situation, but they always talk about how there's supposed to be synergy in those situations where a head coach, and understandably so, will bring in a guy that he works well with. And I get that, because you want someone that'll make you better, or at least keep you accountable, that isn't necessarily combative with you, maybe disagreeable with you, but not combative with you, to make your job as easy as possible. And you can go ahead and coach this team up and handle your coaching responsibilities as well. But six minority GMs. Wow.
And the thing is, too, you mentioned it, man. And I'm gonna throw it over to you, Rashad, right quick, and Previn, you can feel free to follow. A lot of these brothers as GMs, and GMs in general, especially in particular, so focusing on minority hiring, a lot of these general managers have been hired after the decision has been made about the head coach. For example, in Detroit, got the brother man from A&T, but you know that they've already decided on being Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell,
yeah.
A while ago. It comes from the top, right? The ownership and whatnot.
I'll say this, right?
It's like, who's in charge?
And I don't necessarily know Brad personally.
Sure.
But this is a message directly to him. I'm hoping that you didn't choose Dan Campbell, please. I mean, for your sake, let this be a hiring from the ownership and whoever else that's above you, because I don't know if I necessarily like that pick of Dan Campbell if I was a Detroit Lions fan, but I digress.
If I read the tea leaves, they don't. I have a good friend of mine who's from Detroit. He hated that.
Now, maybe he comes in and he lights the NFC North on fire, but
yeah. Or it's like that meme that's like,
yeah, really.
All right, Rashad. We talked long enough, man. So it's on you. So, I mean, who's really in charge of a lot of these brothers that's been hired as GMs, being that they already have the coach in place? It's like, do we want them to be figureheads or do with Tyler's? What's going on here?
Right. Now, and I agree with what you said earlier. I mean, we just don't know. Teams haven't made it clear enough. To Dwayne's point, like he said earlier, that really changes from team to team, because even in the verbiage of how they, give their titles. I mean, you have some GMs who are more football operations guys and some that are more player personnel guys. And so that changes from organization to organization. And I mean, they really have to come up with something structured. But one thing I thought about, and I don't want to take your spot, Scott, but
no, go ahead, brother.
I wanted to know what you guys thought about Louis Riddick. What do you think? He seems like a pretty sharp guy. I mean, just him on TV and commentating, just I kind of researched him and looked, him being a former player, and from what I've heard,
he's a personnel man for a while.
They say he know his stuff. He knows.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he hasn't gotten an opportunity yet. Louis Riddick, and so you guys take on that.
Well, I'll start, Dwayne. You can, and Previn, you can follow with that if you want. It's wow, right? Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what happened with that. You think that a guy who's on TV with ESPN for the past few years has been doing the drafts, right? With what's his name? The guy with the good hair from Baltimore. God damn it, what's his name? I'm blanking on these names, man. But anyway, the point is that he's
Mel Kiper.
Mel Kiper, yeah. I mean, the thing is, he's been doing it for a while, and Tom McShay.
McShay Jr.
He's been doing. They've been doing it together for a while. Mm-hmm. He's knowledgeable on a lot of these young players coming out of college. One is from the small schools too. He's very knowledgeable. That's what you want in a general manager, someone who's knowledgeable, right? Not some personality, but a guy who will not only play the game, but he has some, as Rashad mentioned, he has some front office experience.
And another point, he's kind of stuck around. Think about ESPN and all the changes they made.
Yeah.
People in and out, especially these TV personalities. I mean, when you think about the Jamel Hills of the world and
Michael Smiths,
but he's always kind of, even in controversial times and speaking on controversial points, he's been the one that's kind of been able to articulate himself well, and he's stuck around, and so obviously they like him around the network. And I'm wondering how that kind of correlates to the league and what people think, behind closed doors when you think about these NFL executives,
right?
People, who really have a say so when it comes to things,
Yeah, Previn, what are your thoughts, brother?
As far as Riddick was concerned, like I said, he's got front office experience. He seems to have the keen scouting sense. 2 points on that. One, there's no shortage of owners in the NFL that will look at Riddick's body of work on TV and says, to me, I'm listening to a scout, not a general manager. The other thing too is, it did occur to me that Louis Riddick might not want to be in that fray right now anyway. This is a pretty cush gig he's got there.
Right.
National exposure on TV with Monday Night Football too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, it's not a bad job. But we'll find, we'll see. Again, back to some of these owners. Scott, you brought up a really good point. That 32 teams. I often say this too. In the office, those water cooler sessions with a lot of the guys that get really hyped up about preseason football.
Right.
32 teams, 32 different approaches. Mm-hmm. I mean, in the literal sense. Shad Khan mentioned in his organizational shakeup, his plan is now, how many plans has Shad Khan come up with down in Jacksonville? Where, I know, right? Where the coach reports to the general manager reports to the owner. Previously, Shad Khan had both the coach and the general manager report directly to him separately. kind of like this weird mutually exclusive thing.
Right.
How does that work?
Yeah.
I mean, how can any shop trust each other when you're individually reporting to the owner? Where else does it start? The training staff, the doctors, who are they reporting to individually? The owner?
Yeah.
No.
How can you function like this? Nothing but discord in that situation.
Correct.
But yet you really believe that Jacksonville is the only team where they have some sort of, where the owner says, this will be best run if my head coach, my general manager, my president, whoever, the trainer, the guy that gets the donuts, they all report to me individually. The league average.
Oh man.
The league winning percentage this year, in this COVID year, 2020, was 0.495 something. Now, I'm not a big statistician or something like that, but really all that tells me is that the teams that are really good, and the teams that are really bad are really, really, really bad.
Right.
I mean, the average winning percentage is under 500. There's a lot of people that say, we're doing this my way, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's hard to say what's the right way, but it's real easy to see what's the wrong way.
Yeah. That's why some teams suck and some teams are successful. That's the way it is. If you see it out year after year after year, especially in the league that thrives on parity. You see it. You see the same teams, Jets, Bengals, Jaguars. They suck for a reason.
Starts at the top.
Yep, exactly. Thank you. And I live in Cincinnati, so I know about that. I know a lot about that starting at the top bullshit with the Brown family. But Dwayne, I know you're about to say something too. I don't want to get you the last word on this.
Yeah, especially as it pertains to these team owners that bring in GMs that are yes men to them. God, the only thing that's worse than a GM that's a yes man to the head coach is a GM that's a yes man to the owner.
Right.
C1 Bruce Allen. But my God, I've seen so much young African American.
I get some Tums after that.
Man,
he had that Fred Sanford look when he like Prem had that Fred Sanford look whenever you see Aunt Esther.
Yeah.
That was it.
You bit dummy. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, because the infamous winning off the field dude. But yeah, so I mean, I've seen so many, and I know we all like to talk about it from the perspective in which we see on a regular basis, which is the teams in which we're fans of. Mm-hmm. So it's a whole lot easier for me to talk about what I've seen here in DC, especially with a lot of young African-American talent in the front office that has been bypassed. Not just young, but old African-American talent that has been bypassed by either not having a GM in place here in DC or a young scout, a young personnel dude on the rise that have helped make great decisions be bypassed for some crony to come in here and act a fool, and then he ends up going elsewhere. And one of those guys in terms of potential talent that could have been coming here is your boy Louis Riddick. It was well known that Louis Riddick was really lobbying to be a general manager here in DC. The thing is, he was also openly critical of the organization while on ESPN. But, and that's one of the things, I guess he was like, I got to do my job. But at the same time, that's not the way to win the graces of one Daniel Snyder. Look at the many people he sued and some of which lawsuit. Yeah. You got to go ahead and be like a Bruce Allen, I guess. Unless you already have, or Vinny's, you know what? As bad as they talked about white shirt Vinny, this dude is coming out.
He was a yes man, though.
He was, but my God, as badly as I talked about white shirt Vinny, that was the nickname they gave him on ESPN because, of course, whenever he would do his shows, he would always wear a white button up. But as badly as I talked about white shirt Vinny, dude, there were several times during the Bruce Allen era where I was like, dude, I long for Vinny Serrato right now. Long, and that says a whole lot about how bad Bruce Allen is, right? But it would have been perfect to go ahead once again. This is a city that is known for at one point in time being majority African American, even though the city may not be, the region still is. Mm-hmm. And they're most definitely not only looking for a black quarterback to come here and do well, but it would have been fantastic to have a black GM. And so when they went ahead and put Doug Williams in as vice president of player personnel.
Yes, senior vice president. Yep.
And that situation became muddy because technically Bruce Allen was the team president, not the team GM, because they didn't have a team GM. And people were wondering who was making general manager moves. And was it Bruce Allen? Was it Doug Williams? Was it the both of them? Was it neither one of them? Was it Dan Stein? That entire situation was messy. And then you would have situations in which, I guess, from being a little bit knowledgeable of how Doug Williams would potentially think, you would be like, okay, those seem like moves that Doug would make and not moves that Bruce would do. Mm-hmm. One of those, of course, he came out and said it. If it wasn't for me, Adrian Peterson wouldn't have been here for those last 2 seasons. Mm. And I thank him for that, because at least we got a little bit of something to watch when he was here. But once again, what was his role? And then, of course, when they bring in Ron Rivera, they relinquish Doug of that role and put him someplace else to be more of an ambassador for the team. Because, I understand you don't necessarily want Doug to be a GM, but he does know about the college game, being that he used to be a college coach for well over 10 years. Put him on the scouting at least, but
I'll say this, bro. And you know this. I'm telling you stuff that you already know about. I'm just going to repeat it for clarity. Mm-hmm. At least you guys have some representation in the front office terms when it comes to player development, player personnel. Yep. You guys got. We start at the top. You got the team president, Jason Wright.
Yeah.
He was the first black team president in the history of the NFL.
I'll say this though, right?
The first one. Only last year.
I applaud everything that Washington has been doing over the past 2 seasons.
Right.
The past year.
Right.
But it's just very interesting. And I hate to be a pessimist in the situation.
No, go ahead.
It's on the heels of the whole name change situation.
Right.
And not just name change, but the sexual harassment situation, right, aka Skinamax, as I like to call it.
You're crazy.
I need to go ahead and get the t-shirts printed and stop playing around. But yeah, so it just happens to be that all of these hires of a black team president, mm-hmm, a minority head coach, and the first female assistant head coach,
full-time assistant coach,
yes, a black GM. All of this is coming on the backside of all of this negativity that this team has had to deal with over the past summer. And I'm like, I'm glad it's happening, but is this why it's happening?
Right.
I
as well as senior director of player development, Malcolm Blacken, the director of pro personnel, Eric Stokes.
Yes, yeah. Eric Stokes. Yeah. So
Stokes,
sorry about that, man. Mm-hmm. And Stokes is another guy who I was looking to see hopefully continue to ascend within this organization.
Right.
But man, oh man, it's probably going to take. Well, I don't want to say it. I don't want to speak it into existence. I'm just hoping that all of these hires are done for the right reasons and not for window dressing to make this organization look good.
Yeah, I hear you, bro. We'll get to this. We'll close the shot on this. We'll circle back to the coaches that just got hired in the cycle. And the reason why is because I want to throw an extra wrinkle in. Now, we've rightfully so, and many people in sports have rightfully complained about the lack of minority hiring, right, in this past coaching cycle. Names that come out, you make it look like, really? But
Case of the Mondays.
But Case of Mondays. But like you mentioned, we talked about Dan Campbell earlier. Mm-hmm. I hired to 6 years, 6-year contract. But I digress. Guys like him have been making some hires and bringing black talent, if you will, as coordinators. For example, we'll stick with Campbell. He recently hired Anthony Lynn, former coach of the Chargers, right, to be the offensive coordinator. Okay. He also hired Aaron Glenn. We all know who Aaron Glenn is, right? Former player for the New York Jets, great player. He's the defensive coordinator. So I think that's his first job as a defensive coordinator, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So at least I guess Dan Campbell's like, look, I gotta get some cats around me who know what the hell they're doing. They so happen to be brothers. That's good that Dan Campbell is thinking outside the box like that, at least. Brandon Staley, the one who's been jerking off the Rams coach, he recently hired Ronaldo Hill as a defensive coordinator to help obviously run the defense. So of course he's a brother too. He's a former player. So I mean, there are other hires. I think Urban's going to hire Charlie Strong, who used to be his defensive coordinator in Florida. He's going to hire him, I think, to coach the linebackers, if I'm not mistaken. So there's some moves being made as we speak to at least elevate these brothers to be in higher profile assistant jobs, if you will. One thing I really want to share with y'all is what, we all, talked about Bruce Arians, but Bruce Arians, he's one of the very few coaches who really practice what he preaches when it comes to diversity hiring. Like his top 4 coaches on his staff are all black.
Yep.
Harold Goodwin, the assistant head coach, run game coordinator. Todd Bowles, defensive coordinator. Byron Leftwich, offensive coordinator. Keith Armstrong, special teams coordinator. That's his top 4. Those are his lieutenants. All black.
Yes.
So at least
all in the Super Bowl coming up.
There you go. They're all in the Super Bowl. Thank you. They're all in the freaking Super
Right.
Bowl. So I mean, he's Antoine Randall is offensive assistant. Mike Caldwell, inside linebackers coach. Clyde Christensen, I think he's a minority. He's a quarterback.
Wow. Did you say Antoine Randall L?
Yeah.
I did not know that. I did not know that.
And Randall L is an offensive.
I remember his days with the Steelers. That's
yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I like
yes, sir.
Randall
The Super
L,
Bowl
man.
when he threw that pass against the Seahawks. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
But he in addition to like the other minority coaches on the staff, there are women on the staff as well. So he practiced what he preaches. So basically what I'm trying to say is, I think with more coaches doing this, giving opportunities to deserving, not just any minority, but a deserving minority, right? Like Bruce Arians has, and Dan Campbell's putting the staff around him. That's his 2 top lieutenants are black. Brandon Staley and like with the Chargers. So it's being, at least more of that's being done. We need more of a pipeline. And I would say this too. One last thing, and I'll turn it over to Rashad, Previn, and Dwayne Nash. Y'all can finish this out. I want to just call out, if you will, some of the only 2 black coaches in the league to do the same thing. You see what, again, we talked about what Bruce Arians is doing. We're talking about what some of these new head coaches are doing. We're talking about Ron Rivera is doing, another minority is doing it in Washington. You got to get a tree going. Andy Reid is getting the tree going. Andy Reid's been trying to help Eric Bienemy. He's trying to. And I think Pep Hamilton, he's still going to be the quarterback's coach, if I'm not mistaken. And
he is.
So that's another one. So these white coaches are trying to get these brothers in this pipeline. I just need the Mike Tomlins of the world. I need the cat in Miami. I need for him to do the same thing.
Flores.
Brian Flores. Yeah.
Right. I need for him to do the same thing. Okay, because it's bad enough that deserving brothers are getting shut out. It's that the ones who still have jobs aren't doing their part, in my opinion, to help to look at some of their white colleagues and create a pipeline as well as some of these white colleagues are doing for deserving black coaches. So I'm gonna close the show. I'm gonna go with Rashad, Previn, D Nash. You're gonna close it. So the floor is yours, Rashad.
Yeah, I echo your sentiments, man, and I made a great point. Guys like Flores and Ron Rivera, guys who are minorities. I hope that they continue to hire other minorities so that you can build that tree. So I just what you said, that's important. But to Dwayne's point, I hope if they have the opportunity to do so, that it's not like he said, having to answer to the owner or to the GM and being that yes man. If they're ever made a yes man, it won't happen. Right. You know, so hope they get the appropriate power and leverage in order to, you know, make personnel decisions and be able to have guys come up under them and kind of build that tree, because that allows for other minorities to come in. And before you know it, we can build it and see those percentages go up. So I just hope that it continues, but doesn't put them in a tough situation where they're getting, like you said, those bottom of the barrel jobs.
Terrible jobs, right.
Yeah, and you know, just setting them up for failure. And so, like I said, I echo what you say, and I just hope and pray that, you know, it opens doors for us going down the road.
Well said. Pete?
Okay, right quickly, I'm going to go off script a little bit.
Go ahead.
I think I have what might be 3 points here. First and foremost, to echo what your sentiment was, Scott, talking about Bruce Arians. He's been talking his talk for actually quite a while now that I think about it. He's kind of like the NFL, you could say a poor man's Greg Popovich, the NFL's version of.
Good point.
He's had a couple of interviews in print media discussing how he felt about race relations in the state, within the sport of football in general, coming up all the way through high school, college, and the NFL. So that's an excellent point. I'm glad you reminded us and the general population out there that's watching that you do have a coach that seems to be committed to building, you know, a lineage and affording other minority coaches a chance to establish themselves and to get their foot in the door. And also, excellent point. If nothing else, the numbers, it might not seem like much, but if you can just continue to build on that, build a base, the numbers, even if it all comes out of one organization, that's better than what we've been doing.
Right.
It's been kind of on my mind going back to, I guess this is going to go way off the topic here, but I think this is going to perhaps introduce another segment down the line. There's a situation in terms of minority hiring that's actually much worse than the NFL, and that's college football on the Division I.
That's another podcast in and of itself.
Yes.
That's a great point.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, you know, we heard today that the University of Tennessee made a hire. Some people love it, some people hate it. Who really cares? It's Josh Heupel. What was interesting was that who was rumored to be Tennessee's preferred choice on that. Now the name's escaping me.
It's contagious.
One of the topics. Tony Elliott at Clemson, offensive coordinator,
Clemson.
Was supposed to be the main target of was the target at Tennessee. I don't know exactly where he was, but it was one of those situations where I was like, man, I hope he don't take that job.
I said the same thing. That's a
bad situation.
Tennessee is a dumpster fire.
NCAA allegations coming down the pipe. Right. So, you know, questionable organization at the top in the athletic director's office. Just a lot of turnover up there. There's a lot of chaos. You don't want to see a guy go into a bad situation. And as we've seen in college, the leash is even shorter.
Yep.
Yes.
And the situations are even worse.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, but at the same time, it's not going to get any better unless you just simply continue to pour more brothers into these voids. And, you know, I'm sitting there praying that the guy doesn't take a bad job, but somebody's got to do it. Right. And we need more somebodies that have to do it. It pains me to say it.
Yeah, totally.
You know, especially seeing what's happened to Charlie Strong, you know, I have a running joke on Ty Willingham. Every year.
Every year.
Oh,
that thing makes you laugh every year, dude.
I felt bad for him at Notre Dame. I felt so bad for him.
Right. Yeah, I have, like I said, a long running joke since he's been fired. So
they lost a lot of black fans with that. They lost a lot of black fans back then with that. But go ahead. Yeah.
So those are my thoughts on it. Like I said, it's frustrating. It's kind of like what Dwayne said, we can only be optimistic, which is sad that we have to take a cautiously optimistic stance on what we're seeing in DC. Are they doing You know.
Get stuff. Oh, yeah, I got you. All right, D.
No,
I'm sorry.
I just ran out of stuff to say.
No, okay. All right, Dwayne, close the show, man.
All right, before I get to my closing statement, I gotta say this real quick. After watching this LA Philly game, I want to go ahead and curse out the dude, the guy that wipes the floor, cleans off the floor, for wearing his pair of threes while he's doing that job. Who does that? Oh my God. He's gonna mess up.
He don't know no
like
better.
That, dude?
He don't know no better. He don't know no better.
Yes.
He don't know no better.
And then of course, rest in peace to one Sekou Smith, man, who passed away yesterday.
Yes.
To COVID. Scott and I, we normally coach the show talking about wear your mask, social distance, because COVID is real. This is just another case right there of how real COVID is, man. The man's 48 years old, married with kids.
Very popular.
Unfortunately,
sports,
very popular within
very popular in these
sports
circles. Yeah.
And yeah, exactly. So just another sad loss because of this thing that was poorly taken care of. Hopefully we can go ahead and get this thing taken care of a lot better with this current administration. Now with politics out the way,
fingers crossed.
Let's just go ahead and say this, right? This is the main reason why we talked about this entire show. Well, the main reason why the subject matter is even one of importance. It's one thing, and it's because of representation. It shows not only those that are within NFL offices or even college or high school offices that you have the ability to come in and work within the front office or even become a head coach on the pro level. It gives the kids an opportunity to dream and do so they can do the exact same thing too. Because let's be real, a lot of these kids that are playing junior high school, or even college football won't get an opportunity to get into the league as a player. But if they can go ahead and start prepping themselves early and building relationships, they can go ahead and get into the league so they can go ahead and be in on the front office side of things. Right. But in order for that to happen, there has to be a face that looks like theirs in the front office to bring them in. That's one. Two, as it pertains to HBCU, something that we all love as well as we do, and the horrible excuse given last winter about because of course with COVID we lost the HBCU combine, NFL combine I think the NFL combine was altered. We lost the because the NFL combine was before. So then we had the NFL combine, we lost pro days, and we lost the NFL, the HBCU combine. So a lot of the opportunities for head coaches and scouts to meet HBCU players on a one-to-one basis or face-to-face was eliminated. Even though I truly believe that's a horrible excuse because you can still interview a dude via Skype, but I digress, right? Yeah. So of course the whole thing is if a front office guy or a coach does not necessarily trust a player, they won't take a chance on them. And a lot of times, a lot of instances, it seems as though that a lot of coaches or ones who were former players that are now front office guys that used to play at HBCUs are more willing to take chances to bring in HBCU alums to play in the NFL. And we've seen that number of HBCU alums drop constantly. I could go back to 2013, where there were 45 guys that made an NFL roster at the beginning of the season. That number dropped to 27, 28, if you want to go ahead and add Joe Thomas from South Carolina State that was brought onto a team like the following week, right? So that number almost dropped. When that number did drop, like a quarter of what it was 7 or 8 years ago. And that number is constantly dropping. If you look at the number of guys that were drafted in the NFL from HBCUs over the past 4 years, it was 4. Last year, it was 1. One guy. And he was taking 17 spots before that final position. Why? Because a lot of these coaches and GMs used the excuse that we never got an opportunity to meet with these guys. So what did they do? They ended up drafting what they knew. They drafted guys from LSU. They drafted the guys from Clemson. They drafted guys from Notre Dame. There were more guys drafted from Power 5 conference schools than it was any place else. As a matter of fact, there were a total of 7 guys selected from the FCS D2 and D3 level. That is insane. 7. There were 10 schools that had more than 7 guys go. I'm sorry, there were 7 schools that had more than 7 guys go, and there were 7 guys taken from a total of 256 programs. Insane. Hopefully, the addition of more minority head coaches and minority front office guys, minority scouts will reduce this. My hope is that it happens because, man, the only way that happens is, like I said before, we have representation, and representation matters.
Well said, brother. That's a cool way to end the show. So thank you, guys, for joining me on this podcast. So much
smarter than me.
allegedly, we're allegedly smarter, but
can I say something before we go?
Yeah, sure, right quick. Go ahead.
Big shout out to Alex Brown and Antonio Hamilton, South Carolina State alums, playing in the Super Bowl next Sunday. Not this coming Sunday, of course, but next Sunday. So I'm a South Carolina guy, so just wanted to shout out them and HBCUs. There's 2 guys from Central playing as well, North Carolina Central, and then another young man, Prairie View A&M, I think.
And Quentin Bell. Shout out to Quentin Bell. Quentin Bell was playing wide receiver at Prairie View A&M until the coach said, "Hey, you got speed, you're fast. Let's move you to DN." In his final year as DN at Prairie View, he got 7 sacks and somehow parlayed that 1 year into him being signed on to the Oakland Raiders as a DN, and he's still in the league 2 years later. Shout out to Quentin Bell, man. So yeah, those 5 guys.
Wow, wide receiver to DN. That's cool.
Yes. Yeah. And I forget there's a guy from Howard that's on the coaching staff somewhere. I just can't remember what his exact position is. But yes, 5 guys that are currently on that are on the 2 rosters, 4 that are on the field, 1 that's on the practice squad that will be participating on Super Bowl Sunday.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Hey, thanks for the tip, Rashad. That's really appreciated. So it's been a great show. We got to do this again. We got to do this again. We got to do this again real soon. Yes. Anything such as comes up or HBCU, we have our HBCU roundtable every year anyway. So we're going to get that going again. We'll probably do it in the spring, as a matter of fact, since a lot of FCS schools, including obviously the MEAC rather, and the SWAC, are going in the spring, so we're probably going to have that discussion there as well.
Yeah, MEAC Media Day is tomorrow, and hey, Previn, I'm only as smart as I am because I've been cheating off your paper for years. I'm just saying.
It's a short paper, man.
It's a short paper. Anyway,
short paper with all the right answers.
y'all crazy. Anyway, for those of you out there, man, as always, wear a mask. If you can't wear a mask, stay your ass at home, wash your hands. COVID is real. We know it's real. Get with the program. And one last thing, please subscribe to the channel. We'd appreciate it. We need the love. We're full of love. We're gonna spread the love. And one last thing, I see D Nice did it. I meant to call y'all earlier, Get the merch. Get the merch.
I gotta get one of those hats.
Yes, sir. CafePress.com.
Yeah, I saw the hat. I was like, yo.
Yes, we got the merch, man. CafePress.com. Search for the Klown Time Sports. I'm gonna put the link in the description and on YouTube sometime tomorrow and upload this video. So that's a wrap. So thank y'all for tuning in to this great podcast. We'll see you again next week. Peace.